Okay, let's get back to it. We have been sent to go talk to Nyralim. This is, I guess if you wanted to call him something, this person, if you will, you'd say it's something of a god to the Fae. I always want to say elves. But it's sort of that type of thing. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. But in order to get to the Gardens of Issa, which is essentially the Fae capital, at least in this region of the world, then we have to talk to this person first. Do the mandatory fighting along the way, right? Nice. I'll take that. I love the job they did with waterfalls here. I really do. We got a little owl dude up there. These lanterns light the way to these Fae, what would you say, cities and places and stuff. And notice they're all hanging from the branches of this huge tree. Look at that. All the different stuff to see in this game. If nothing else, if there's no other reason to play this.
The maid, convinced of Olain's threat, agreed to free the town. The people offered thanks and praise, and quietly she went her ways. Once the ill were brought to health, and the villain had fallen by, good Olain returned to mortal ground, and gifted them with magic found.
Now, when we meet some of the people, it seems like we meet some of the people that are spoken of in these lore stones. These are Fae that have gone through their cycles. Uh-oh. The tree's talking to us, y'all. It seems that these Fae have gone through cycles and they just keep repeating their legendary acts of heroism and all that. I wonder which version of these Fae we're talking to. How many cycles they've been through when we do actually meet them. All right, let's see what the big glowing tree ball thing has to say.
The curious one seeks a way to the Fae, but it has found its way to the boughs of the world tree instead. Rest, quickling, and I may study you. Look around you, and I am all that you can see. My roots spread across Dalantarth. My leaves read the winds from Frostbrine Coast to Alabastra. My family and I circle this world. We were saplings when your kind emerged from the dark, and we will grow with you until this world burns once again. My roots spread wide and deep, and I have heard what brought you here, but I cannot see where you go hence. The time of the Fae is passing. I must shelter them in their twilight and protect them from the corruption that spreads in their kin to the east. The gardens of fate are clear to me, and all that ever shall be are visible in its blooms. Issa's end has always been certain. Buried beneath Prismere blades, I can only hold back the tide. But you, perhaps you can change the currents. Where you tread, you mark all you touch. Before I would help you, I must know. Will you be a kind gardener or a careless reaper? Like all quicklings, you are eager to act. I would rather see the method of your action. A tribe of trolls has been corrupted with Brismere. Their matriarch, Nash, has united the clans in the first step on the path of Dalantarth's demise. You can change this fate, but to what? In doing so, you may awaken a more dangerous threat, like your ally, Aelin Shear. She walks a deep and tangled path, one that you walked alongside her before your death.
Aha.
But your path is your own now. Defeat Nash. Remove the taint of Brismere. Then I shall see who you are. If not, who you will become. The troll matriarch and her brood await at Haxi. Their corruption burns my roots and threatens our future. Aelin Shear is a mystery and a simplicity. She is focused in a way few quicklings are. Her dedication is true, but I do not know the cause. Together you have walked dark paths beneath my boughs. You knew one another before your death, or thought you knew each other. I am as world trees have ever been since the dawn of time. I watch, I understand, and I remember. Walk your path and watch.
Interesting. So Aelin Shear and this Nyralim obviously don't get along. They can't stand each other. Nyralim knows about Aelin Shear's relationship with our character before our character even died. Well, our character was reborn at the beginning of this game, so we don't remember any of that. We get to essentially choose our own path in a major way. Now, apparently, this world tree is like the ultimate fate weaver, right? He can basically read the future by just retelling how it's always gone before. And maybe there's an object lesson in the fact that a tree is deeply rooted, unmovable, but basically unchanging. It may grow over time, but it's not going to change much. And it's, with all of its power, I guess, and its ability to see and understand, it's kind of helpless when it comes to protecting the Fae who live under its boughs. I'm not trying to get all flowery and poetic here, but that seems like the kind of the statement that they're making is that this tree and all of its wonders is basically it really can't do anything about anything here. And then it sees our character who doesn't fit anywhere in this fabric of time. That Fate Weaver guy we met at the very beginning of the game, he could see parts of the fabric of fate. Apparently this tree watches the whole thing just blossom and bloom at will, and we're not any part of that. So this is like for those RPG fans who are huge fans of choice, this at least in concept, the idea was that the player would be given the ultimate choice, the ability to change the course of the future, which had always repeated the past. This is one huge long cycle filled with little cycles, like the Fae, who consider themselves eternal because they can at least remember their past life and they know their role. They know their thread in the fabric of fate, if you will. But the fabric itself keeps looping. Notice he said, until the world burns once again. This shit has been going down for the longest.
I thought I'd find you here. That damned tree sent me. He has roots and branches all through the forest. But I was so hoping you'd be enough of a distraction for me to pass unnoticed. He said we should walk this path together. Thought I could help you, or maybe that you could help me. I've never met Nash. Trolls and Doppelfar rarely invite each other to tea. But if she's matriarch of a clan, you can be sure that she's strong. And if she's so corrupted that Nyralim is nervous about her, then she must pose a bigger threat than most trolls. Nyralim is the oldest living mortal. He remembers the time before even the Fae called these lands home. You should see how they cherish him. He rarely grants an audience to visitors. His tenders say he knows the future as well as the past. It makes him very particular about what he says. Let's not keep Nash waiting.
I'm wondering if this really all boils down to something as simple as your character has a chance to change the pattern of the way things have always been for the better, while this other Gadflow asshole with the big mouth, he wants to change things for the worse. Not in his own eyes. So the desire to express one's free will, to do something other than what's always been, to not have your fate already written out for you, but to choose your own path, I guess you could say. Gadflow just chooses to do it by destroying everything around him. Anything that symbolizes the prison that the Fae find themselves in, being trapped to their own, well, fates that they're doomed to repeat over and over and over. I guess it'd be a comforting thing to know how things are going to turn out all the time. To never ever take a chance. But then, is that really living? Not really. You can't fail or succeed unless you've tried, right? I love that saying. And it seems to me everything always comes back to that in this game. Like the writer just got this concept in his head and just kind of just went with it, you know? And that's cool. That's really cool.
I expected a little more.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to do much. I was doing most of the fighting there. You're pretty fancy with those daggers. You just don't accomplish a lot with them. You just keep wearing that armor, Alan Shear, and looking hot, and we'll get along fine.
What are the Tuatha doing?
Tuathas. Okay, so their thing is to corrupt all the Fae, or imprison all the Fae here with Prismere. Apparently, can allow the probably, I guess, the Tuatha mages or whatever to do a mind control thing. Seems a bit like the Red Lyrium or Blood Magic thing from Dragon Age, just a little bit. But either way, they're not doing us any favors with any of this nonsense. I guess they want to destroy all the mortals, get us out of the way, everywhere, and then deal with the rest of the Summer Fae and change the course of the future, which is the same thing as changing history. And they just look down their noses at the rest of us who can't see the bigger picture like they think that they can see. And then the Fae themselves can't see the bigger picture compared to this Nyralim, and it's just this never-ending cycle. I can't blame somebody for wanting to get out of their cage, but at everyone else's expense. Aren't they really imprisoning all these other poor creatures with their Prismere so that they can free themselves? It's kind of how I look at it. Freaking mages, man. At least they have something of an attack pattern. Ah, take that. You can see why I've built this character around critical chance and critical damage. We're not really there yet. We're getting there. But once our critical chance is really high, and the critical damage will pretty much take care of itself, then, yeah, then you're just basically a wrecking ball running through everything. Remember when I compared this game a little bit to Fable 2, not just for some of the artwork and animations and stuff, although I'd say the combat is much more, I guess you could say, involved than it was in Fable 2. Fable 2 is pretty much just run around and swing your sword, but it was I think the whole point of that was to play through the story. It wasn't so much for combat challenge. You weren't trying to play Dark Souls. In Fable 2, it was like a storybook that you basically got to participate in, and this is along those lines. But with all the combat stuff that they give you to work with, it's a shame that there's not another difficulty setting. This would be great if it really, really stressed all of the crafting and skills that you could put together and stuff. I like a game that offers a really deep crafting system and then punishes you for not using it. In other words, if you don't keep up with the Joneses and keep gear and stuff that allows you to with the enemies that you face as you level up, they get stronger and stronger, then yeah, it becomes, yeah, it's kind of rewarding to not only have a really good skill build, but have a game that requires it. Yeah, I have no doubts that had this studio stayed in business, had all that stuff not gone down, the legal issues and the publishing stuff, just all the shitstorm that surrounded this game, had none of that happen, and if they were still around, by now we'd probably have the next segment, which would be the beginning, which would be the time before this game takes place, and we would probably get to see the history with Alan Sheeran, our character, and what actually went down, and did she screw us over? Did we screw them over? Were we screwing everyone else over? Were we just this real bad villain asshole type person who got a second chance to redeem themselves? And, you know, all this stuff. I'd really like to have seen that. But I have no doubts that there would have been an update or two to this game that, although it was pretty polished when it came out, these little shits with the Fey Blades are tearing my ass up, aren't they? Take that. Right, let's send those Fey Blades flying. Uh-oh, that's not good, is it? Okay, I'm sorry. It just came charging. Went all batter up on my ass. Yeah, we'll be getting a bow here pretty soon. I'm gonna pull these points out of magic. We got to play with the chakrams. I really just wanted to show you guys just how freaking awesome these things are. But as far as a build goes, a bow fits much better because its points already invested in the stealth or the rogue tree. Finesse. Which really, really emphasizes what you can do with bladed weapons. Obviously, that's why I'm using a greatsword instead of a hammer or anything else. Bladed weapons with the finesse tree really play well into the warrior tree. The skill system they set in place for this game is just fantastic. You can see a lot of this in Mass Effect Andromeda if you're playing that. It's obviously the same guy who thought this up. Put together the Andromeda skill system as well. Instead of the various, what would you say, fates or destinies, the cards that you can unlock here in Andromeda, they basically made that the different profiles or classes. Like whether you wanted to be an adept or a vanguard or a infiltrator or just a plain soldier or whatever. Well, here you can have crosses between, you know, mage warriors, rogue mages, all that stuff. Kind of curious how a pure rogue warrior would go instead of the greatsword, taking the warrior sustained abilities, like, you know, basically the berserk mode, the Reaver mode, that's what I call it, that I'm using here, and just using the daggers instead. Obviously backstabs and stealth attacks would be instant kills on just about everything. But if you're just going to go toe-to-toe combat with daggers, I would think that the uninterrupting ability of the warrior... Don't know if you'd probably benefit more from wearing warrior armor. I don't know. I mean, I'm wearing rogue armor with my warrior here. I would think it would play the same with the rogue. Let's see. I just get that idea in my head and just go do it. Just go make a character like that. Oh, we could switch later. Honestly, we could, you can go just respec and completely go with a totally different playstyle. It's a great way to get some of the extra achievements, too, where they ask you to kill a certain number of enemies with a certain type of, you know, like, say, with magic and stuff like that. We'll go, you know, go unlock a bunch of spells and get some decent mage gear and go run around and zap enemies until you get your achievement unlocked, and then switch back to being a rogue or a warrior or whatever it was that you were doing. Total freedom of choice in this one. All right, we got a full fate bar. I'm probably going to go ahead and trigger that. Yeah, backhanded by a troll. This fate shifting stuff ought to be pretty cool to people who are fans of, like, you know, the Final Fantasy type games or whatever, where you kind of go into a side screen to do your battle. Here, it's action combat, but you can get that kind of 1v1 feel. Even if, well, I guess sometimes it's 1v5 or 1v10.
Clumsy fools.
It's kind of like a small arena.
Nice work. I see you haven't forgotten how to handle yourself in a fight. Still, this is bad. I didn't think the Tuatha would reach this far. At least not so soon. Aren't I always? But have patience. For now, why not take comfort in knowing that you saved Nyralim and his forest? Go, talk to the tree. I'm sure he'll allow you into Isa. I'll stay here and finish off any remaining Tuatha. You can tell the old mossy log yourself. I'll be tracking down any other Tuatha that may have come this far west. I'll find you again when the time is right.
It appears that our character is essentially what this Gadflow jerk wants to be. A truly fateless one. One that has, you know, free will. We can... It's not all written out. We don't have a set destination, a set path to follow that basically no matter what we do, shit's just going to kind of turn out that way anyway. We've escaped from that, and I think this is essentially what Gadflow's after for everybody and everything, to break the cycle. In so doing, though, probably working with some version of a demon or a devil to do so, which has put into his head that that is the right thing to do. Change is good, sometimes. Change is also bad sometimes. When you make things worse, is it not true that change is bad? You know what I'm saying? Now, you can't ever know. You know, if you're going to alter something, if you're going to put your hand into something, it's the ripple effect, which it's the consequences, which I think is another object lesson of this game. Something that it gives the player to think about is the ripple effect. When you throw a pebble in a pond, those ripples reach the far shores, all the far shores of that pond or that lake. And when the ripples get there, just imagine a duck sitting there. And, I don't know, a snake is creeping up on that duck, and the ripple comes and disturbs the snake, and the duck gets away. That duck should have been eaten. But if it weren't for... I mean, you see, it's a very small example, but on a scale where you're talking about the fate of everybody, we're doing one thing, whatever that person whose life you affected one way or another that normally wouldn't have been affected that way, those are, like if you kill somebody, those are children that person might not have. You might be doing the world a favor, but then maybe not. You might be depriving the world of a future king or something.
You return, and in your wake, Dalentarth blossoms. The flow is rearranged, now and forever. Nash's brood is at an end. You have destroyed what was written, and made a new fate for Dalentarth. Even your darkest ally walks a lighter path.
Darkest ally, Alan Shear, huh?
The Tuatha still spread, marching with Prismere and pain. You have only delayed our doom. You have the power of an immortal, and yet the humility to ask for help. Little one, I envy your grace. You shall carry my blessings with you. You must know this, Quickling. The age is changing. Immortals are passing, and the future belongs to the young races. If there is a future to be had. Go, and stand at the heart of the She. There you will find Issa, and perhaps you will find wisdom as well. Only the path of your own choosing. Stand at the heart of the She, and if that path includes the gardens of Issa, I shall allow it. May your path be long and evergreen.
So we're changing the currents of time forever, like going all the way back since time itself began and perpetually. Like the currents are forever changed now. That's some pretty impactful stuff right there. You know what I'm saying? Plus 10% elemental resistance overall. That's pretty cool. Got a bunch of stuff here. Now, set pieces are good to have, but I like making my own stuff, really. Unless I'm not doing any crafting. Not crafting at all is actually a really, really balanced way to play through this game. Just going with what you find. These special unique items really take on a whole new meaning to allow you to keep up with the enemies around you. And enemies will drop, and loot drops will have gear that, you know, has armor and damage ratings that will actually allow you to you know, stay relevant in the game. And it's really well balanced, actually. It really is. Great way to go. Might do a future rogue playthrough where I do that. I'm doing all the crafting here to become way overpowered just because we can. Just for the sake of exploring all that the game has to offer. I think you guys can see already, though, that if there were just one more notch up in the difficulty scaling that really required you to put some time and effort into your build so that you could do enough damage to kill enemies that actually really were a threat, that would just be amazing. You know, once you play through the game a few times, the only reason to come back and play it is for, you know, come up with new builds to meet new challenges. When we get to the Gardens of Issa, which is basically the Fae capital, I guess, for at least over here in Dalentarth or whatever, we'll be able to hook up with a few trainers and buy some points for some of our basic skills. But here I'm going to go pull all these points out of sorcery, or at least most of them. Some of them I'll keep. There's that one passive that lowers the cost of all your spell casting, but everything else pretty much needs to be invested in might and finesse. Especially might. The really good skills come much later, obviously. There's even one that increases your attack speed, which makes the game... anytime you can increase attack speed in a game, I pretty much go for that because it's just so much more fun to zip around. And, you know, Dragon Age 2 gave me that itch. And once you get spoiled by Dragon Age 2, it's you know, everything else becomes kind of boring. And also need to... yeah, well, we'll go find a... I'll go find someone to respec with. I gotta remember what little town that was. Was it Wardensbridge? I don't remember. Anyway, but I'll meet you guys there, and we'll go respec our character, and I think we'll run with a bow and stuff, but we're really might and finesse is what we're gonna be concentrating on. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.